Spoiler alert, you can stand against a political ideology that you don't agree with while not completely abandoning your beliefs like a hypocrite. And if you can't, then you have to examine the high ground that you are standing on, and you have to do better. Welcome to Better, the podcast about doing better, being better, and leaving the world a better place than we found it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Better. Our motto, you know it, do better, be better, make the world a better place. Today's podcast is going to deal with all three. Now, I have notes for this one, actually, because it's a touchy subject. It's something I wasn't too sure I'd ever touch on for this podcast, because I've touched on it in other interviews, other podcasts that I've had, and I don't like the negative headspace it takes me to, but I'm going to try to make this make sense by the end and make it so that you see that I am not partisan. I am not crazy. I'm not about to take a political stance here. I'm going to talk about Donald Trump's assassination attempt and the disappointing reaction by the left. Now, of course, there's a disappointing reaction on the right. That is, I mean, the right has very much been embroiled in accusing, school shootings, nightclub shootings, all these different violent acts. People that have been affected by it, they called them crisis actors. They've said that the violence was staged. They've taken advantage of real violence. They've used the gun lobby to really push their theories through, we'll call them. And so I kind of, I expected the right immediately to blame Joe Biden. As insane as that might be, even though he does have one thing he said that I guess they can paint a target on him for, which we'll talk about. But I did not, not that I wasn't expecting it. I was really hoping the left wouldn't do what they've been doing. And I was hoping they would do better. So for those of you that don't know, I was deeply into politics for a lot of years. I worked mayoral campaigns, I worked civic campaigns, provincial, state, federal campaigns on both sides of the border, Canada, the U.S. I was really embroiled in it. I even had a little political scandal of my own where I was basically, I had these tweets that were attached to books and talk shows and things like that, and they were taken to be real. And all that aside, I decided to jump out of politics to keep my mental health, okay? Because politics is not a healthy place to be. Straight up, most people there in politics have terrible mental health. Everybody that I know involved in politics has mental health problems. And I don't mean mental health problems like they're lunatics. I mean mental health problems like depression, anxiety, things like that. So while I don't like to talk about politics, this instance right here is an opportunity for us to do better, especially you guys on the left. So I usually lean slightly left of center, usually. But today I don't. Today I don't lean either way. I lean dead center because I'm so disgusted by what I'm seeing online. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some examples of what I'm talking about here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to just go through them with you guys. Okay. So, and we're going to talk about this. So let's bring up the first one, which is you are programmed. Forget 2025. The Trump shooting was staged. You are programmed. Then the next bunch, Trump shooting was completely staged, and no one can convince me otherwise. The next one, I believe the shooting attempt on Trump was staged. Look at the security that let him lift his head afterwards. No way. Next one, Trump can never win an election fairly. He always has to pull some extra shit. Staged shooting. Next one, if you didn't for 1 minute yesterday question whether it was a false flag or not, I have to ask you where you have been the last decade. The MSM, mainstream media, and those of you acting like the rest of us are the crazies for thinking it are full of shit. Acting like you knew all along it was not a false flag. If you didn't question it, That's crazy. That's one of the more sane ones of the ones I'm talking about. Now let's go to the next one. How many of you think the whole Trump shooting was staged and those killed collateral damage? If this had been real, he would have been in too much shock to be waving his fist and shouting. Last one I'm going to show you out of the literal thousands that are on my Threads account. Look at the actual shot. Look at the staging. Look at how ready Trump is to rally. That's what some guy, some Democratic billionaire told journalists in an email. Okay, so let's just get rid of that. Let's talk this through. All right, so for the last 10 years, I have written a lot and I've talked a lot about the fact that I think both sides are just way too off in the weeds, way too alt for me. The right has accused the left of, like I said before, crisis actors, stage violence, real violence, and have engaged in conspiratorial thinking for so long that it's become normalized, okay? Now the first chance that the left gets to show that they are above the fray of this all, the left do the exact same thing that they have been accusing the right of doing, and plays right into Trump's hands, right into MAGA's hands. I mean, you guys just fundamentally gave up everything you believe in to go on the internet and make wild statements, okay? Look, I get it. I totally get it. It's okay to have questions. Questions lead to answers, okay? Questions are a good thing. I have questions. I have lots of questions. I was involved in the 2008 Obama for America campaign, and I saw the way that Secret Service set up before those rallies, those huge rallies that we did in football fields for 100,000 people. And there was Secret Service looking at or on rooftops and in buildings of any that were in with direct eye contact of the president, the presidential elect, whatever you want to say, at that time. So I find it weird that there was nobody on the roof, or that the roof wasn't being watched in time to stop this. But I'm gonna say I find that weird. That's a question I have. I have several other questions, and that's okay. But here's where you guys went really wrong, and here's why I think the left has a real chance to do better here. Okay, I know Trump has staged crowds. He lies constantly. And yes, it does seem all a little too perfect. You know, that image of him holding up his fist. He really, for a guy that dodged a draft and never really had to get his hands dirty in his life, he really stepped up to the plate and didn't seem very terrified. Okay, but in moments of extreme trauma, people act unpredictably. Maybe the fact that he's never been in those situations in his life is why we never could have gauged how he would have acted. Maybe he actually would have been decent had he not dodged a draft. Maybe if he had actually had to work for most things in his life, he would have done a good job. I don't know. But here's the thing. And I'll also point out that I do understand the irony of violence breaking out at a Trump rally, considering the fact of all the violence that he's called for and incited. But just because it happened to Trump, just because the shot was taken at Trump, does not mean that it's okay for your core character beliefs to become irrelevant. You guys on the left have called out the right time and time again for being conspiratorial, for not being fact-based, for not waiting for the evidence, for making assumptions, for making wild-ass claims on the internet that just didn't make much sense. You guys also talk about being supporters of the Department of Justice, of the legal system. Well, 12 jurors found him guilty, 12 jurors of his peers, which means that the justice system worked. But yet you're going to jump in with all these wild claims. You're going to talk about how Secret Service are in on it. You're going to come up with all this wild shit. But you've been preaching against this very action that you're taking for so long. All that you have done is revealed that the cognitive dissonance that exists on the right also exists on the left heavily. You have zero proof that it was staged. You have zero proof that Trump acted out of character. You have zero proof that anybody inside of Trump's camp is okay with letting innocent bystanders die as collateral damage. You have zero proof that the gunman was at all linked to Trump or the Republicans or the Democrats or anything. You have zero proof of anything. All you have at the moment of this taping, which is Sunday night, July 14th, is this. 8 shots, roughly, based on what we understand, were shot at President Trump, President-elect, no, I guess what would he be? Former President Trump. 8 shots. One of them appears to have possibly hit his ear. There's been mixed reporting on that. I haven't heard anything that says yes 100%, so I'm going to say appears. You know that it happened at a rally. You know that it was some 20-year-old guy who was a registered Republican who also gave a few bucks to the Democrats when he was 17. You know that someone died. You know that 2 people were injured critically, and there was probably more injured, even less severely, but still injured. You know, Secret Service did their job the second everything started happening. You know that the gunman was killed. That's it. That's all you know. Now, if you're on the left, you have been espousing for like a decade how you are on the side of evidence, the evidence pyramid, truth. You lack any ability to spout conspiracy theories. So that means that you should not say anything as fact without hearing or seeing the evidence first. Okay? This is where you get the chance to do better. This was the moment where the left were supposed to prove their moral high ground. And instead, a bunch of the people on the left did. I mean, we're talking, I searched it before I got on here. We're looking at tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of threads. The social network that is supposed to be the anti-X network, I don't even go on X because it's a total disaster, a dumpster fire. Elon has driven that company into the ground. But Threads, tens of, if not hundreds of thousands of posts from people who claim not to be conspiratorial, who claim to be on the side of evidence and truth and proof, espousing conspiracies and spouting nonsense, things that you don't know. Again, you can question it. I question it. I question everything. But until there's proof to say otherwise, I take things at face value because that's what we're supposed to be doing, right? Us left-leaning folk. Now, like I said, I'm sometimes left-leaning. I'm mostly center of both, but I do strongly believe in evidence and the evidence pyramid, and there'll be a podcast coming up about the evidence pyramid and maybe trying to like make it a little bit better so that for 2024, 2025 and beyond. But if you claim as much as you all do that you are for evidence and things like that, then what you've done is you have just completely lost any ability to have a structural debate with the right. You are the right. You are. Your ideology is different, but your approach to when bad things happen is the same. Look, sometimes bad things happen. Maybe this 20-year-old guy decided that Donald Trump is anti-Republican, that the MAGA movement is ruining the Republican Party, and that's why he did it. Maybe he did it because his auntie is Stormy Daniels. Maybe he did it because the sky was gray that day. We don't know. So saying anything as fact is ridiculous. And for people to have died in the name of politics is so gross. And for people to be banging this conspiratorial drum loudly on the internet is just disrespectful to the injured, the dead, and the families of those who were afflicted by this, okay? Let me be very, very clear. If you're on the internet spreading conspiracies as fact about the fact that Donald Trump's shooting was staged, the assassination attempt was staged, you suck. You are the problem, okay? And likewise, if you're on the right and you're saying that Joe Biden funded it or Joe Biden made it happen or the fact that this is the Democrats trying to come back from the debate performance or whatever, you are also the problem. But we've always had a problem there. The left, you failed. You knew the assignment and you failed it miserably. Now, people have asked me, because I'm so deep into politics, what my prediction is for the election now, and I'm not willing to make one, simply because I got to wait at least 6 weeks. We don't have enough information to say what will happen, or if, and my caution to you is if you're watching this and you're on the left and you're saying, or even if you're on the right, fine, whatever. If you're watching this and you've engaged in this conspiratorial thinking, stop. You don't have enough evidence, and nobody does. So if somebody is saying they do, stop until you see it widely available. Otherwise, you are being trolled for clicks, okay? Look, I won't argue with you that Trump comes off very strong from this. And the assassination attempt on Reagan is probably what won him the election, after they tried to kill him. But these are different times now. And none of this negates the core issues that are happening in America that affect the whole world. Okay, so what I'm saying is that this shouldn't affect any vote anyway. Vote on the issues. Don't vote on the fact that there's, in Canada, the most ridiculous thing I heard was the number of people that voted for Justin Trudeau because he had nice hair. The number of people who voted for Barack Obama just because he was black. They didn't know any of his policies, but they just voted for him because he was black. The number of people that voted for Trump just because he was a billionaire and they thought that his lifestyle was something that they wanted. All ridiculous, all stupid, all don't make sense. Vote on the issues, okay? Now, another thing that has become painfully obvious is that most media have completely given up on Biden. From CNN to Young Turks, Cenk, they're basically saying, like, look how strong the president is. We need to give up on Biden. The Democrats need to lay down, need to lay this election at the feet of Trump. I mean, and I love how they're like, oh, the president, the former president. They were so diligent about former president prior to this, and now all of a sudden he's the president again. I cannot stand mainstream media. The only reason I'll ever watch it is to see if all of them are reporting on something, to get a little bit of validation for something, to see if there's evidence that's out there. But I don't ever take anything from them as at face value. I do hope that this will clean up the reality TV side of this election. I don't think it will. I think you guys have proven that it won't, but I really hope there's some kind of betterment that comes out of this, because, I mean, damn, we need it, right? And I know Biden said, put a target on him, or however he worded it. I think it was like a few days ago, about Trump. He meant a political target. He meant we're gonna call him out for all of his nonsense that he says, all the lies that he espouses. But he needs to own those words and say, here's the thing. Trump has been called out for those things too. And the leftist has said, like, Trump said this, he's inciting violence. And then the right says, no, you're misunderstanding what he's saying. To them, that's as real as what the left is saying right now about when Biden said, put a target on him. Now, they might not be the same thing. However, your belief system in this case has to be counter to the belief system we have to hold Biden account for saying that. Now, does Biden deserve to be shit on for saying it? A little bit. Does he deserve to not be run? Does he have to basically resign the presidency? Because no, it was poorly worded. He should have done better. Hopefully he does better in the future. Donald Trump, on the other hand, has said these things over and over and over and over and over again. And he's not doing any better with it. So, in fact, he's ramped it up. So, as far as I'm concerned, in my mind, he has lost that ability to even think about being better. But Biden still has a chance, and I think he'll take it. He's been acting pretty decent since this whole thing. He's been acting very presidential. He's been acting like a civil servant. He's been acting like a gentleman, which is great. So this truly is a mess. If people vote on the issues, Biden still wins. If people vote because, I don't know, like, people keep saying that Trump won because of the shooting. And I guess there's a case for that, but I don't really know what the case is. Why would somebody vote for Trump simply because he got shot at, especially by a Republican gunman? But that's neither here nor there. We all have to do better. Okay. I have really tried in the last, probably 3-4 years to to structure my debate about politics around what both sides can do, because I think both sides are just completely just off the reservation, so to speak. The fact of the matter is that nobody has a moral high ground anymore. Nobody does. Those of you who decided to become conspiratorial the second something bad happened to Trump, you have thrown out, well, we'll say even, we'll just go right to the beginning of Obama, or the beginning of the birther movement, which I think was 2011. You've thrown out 15 years of work like that. I don't trust you. I don't believe in you. And anybody who is generally center is going to be the same way. You failed. You failed. You failed. You failed. We got to do better, guys. We got, in terms of our communication, I'm going to be doing a lot of podcasts coming up about better communication and all that, because I really, really have worked on this, and I've talked to a lot of people that are experts in this field. We have to do better. We have to deal in fact. If we're not dealing in fact, what are we even doing? Why are we bothering? What did you get out of going on the internet and saying things like, you are programmed, forget 2025, the Trump shooting was staged, you are programmed? What are you getting out of saying that? Is somebody sitting there like, oh my God, this Wolfgang Vane is so right. Oh, I'm so programmed. It was staged. Do you think anybody is changing their mind because of that stupid thread? No, it's not. You're not getting anything out of it. You're not contributing anything. You are just a part of the problem. Now, I did point out this one. Let's see here. Just got to figure out, why is it coming up with me in the background? But this one where she basically asked a question, okay? And she said, if you didn't question that this was a false flag event, what's wrong with you, basically? Now, I don't like the way she worded it, and I don't like that she got into some certainty and then went into some questions, but you're allowed to ask questions. Just like with JFK's shooting, Bobby's shooting, MLK's shooting, Reagan's shooting, all these different incidents that have happened, school shootings, nightclub shootings, all these different violent acts that have happened in the U.S., you're allowed to ask questions. But don't position yourself as certain. That's not helping anybody. It's just not. In fact, all you are doing at this point in time is making matters worse. Because when the dust settles from this, I mean, Trump's already out golfing, guys. He doesn't care about what you think. He's already out golfing. When the dust settles, and by the way, I'm not saying that hyperbolically. I saw that he is actually golfing, and maybe that's his way of unwinding, de-stressing, things like that. I'm not using it as a judgment. I'm just saying he's out golfing. He's not watching you on the internet. He doesn't care what you said. But if you decide that the best way to deal with something is to ignore the fact that bad things happen, ignore the facts as they're presented, ignore the face value presentation of something, then you are a problem. Now, if you think to yourself, well, what about this? What about that? What can they answer these questions? 100%. Do you know how long it took me to figure out that I came to the conclusion that the U.S. government was not complicit in 9/11. The conclusion I came to was that they were lazy and incompetent. Okay. And I came to that conclusion after like 2 years of trying to figure out what exists. See, ever since this, the notifications are crazy, which is why I'm doing this podcast. But the fact of the matter is that no matter what, you have to take time to get the facts straight before you comment. Just the way it is. And if you're going to comment, position it as a question. Hey guys, I'm wondering, why wasn't there Secret Service on the roof? Why weren't they watching that roof? It was like 150 yards is not a far roof to shoot from. Hey guys, why was Trump so kind of nonchalant? What's up with that? Does anybody else feel like this feels weird? Something's off. Something like that, right? And then if somebody says you're being conspiratorial, say, no, I'm just asking questions. I'm not putting this out as certainty. I'm not saying look at this, Donald Trump staged this, or Donald Trump's campaign staged this. You're just asking questions, because it does every single one of these incidents feels weird. There's always weird elements to them, right? And those weird elements need to be addressed. 9/11 had like 1,000 weird elements to it, and they were addressed for the most part. There's a few that I don't really get, but I'm also not an engineer. So the whole point of this podcast is to do better, be better, make the world a better place. Let's start here. Let's start with facts, especially for those of you that have been calling out the right for not dealing in facts. Okay. That's all I'm going to say on the subject. I'm not going to talk much about politics going forward, because I don't like it. I don't think that it's good for any of us mentally to have political, do identity politics or have political ideologies that guide us through every single day of our lives. This is a podcast that I'm trying to make about positivity, and that's how I'm going to end this. If we do better and we deal in fact, we deal in questions when the facts aren't available. If that's how we deal with information, with critical events in history, then we will be okay. But the second we venture into conspiratorial thinking based on nothing verified, and even misinformation, which isn't verified, verify your information. Oh, I go 5 sources. If there isn't 5 sources that are completely independent of each other that are reporting on the information, and that information isn't evidence, I don't care. It doesn't exist. Okay, so that's how we do better. We deal in fact. Please. Because we need to. We're getting too far into the weeds of conspiratorial thinking on both sides. And all that's going to lead to is the very thing that so many people are trying to avoid. And that is a total idiocracy.
Thanks for checking out Better. If you got to the end, it must mean you liked the episode, right? So how about 5 stars? Maybe a sub, maybe a share. Great universal comment points. And good luck on your better journey.